Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Baker, it's good to see you again. The IIJA authorized a new railroad crossing elimination grant program. IIJA authorized $500 million annually in spending, subject to appropriations, and provided advanced funding of $600 million annually through FY26. What has been your experience with this program, and do you have any recommendations for improvements?
Thank you. The program is new creation in IIJA. There's been one round of funding. We think it meets a pressing need. It's a program that public entities apply for. Railroads don't individually apply, but obviously it has to be essentially in partnership with a railroad. I think it's addressing a pressing issue. I mentioned earlier, 95% of the fatalities on the rail system nationwide are either trespassers or grade crossings, and the busiest crossings, not only are they dangerous, but they also they block traffic sometimes, and people get upset, and it delays motorists. And really, the only way to permanently solve that problem is make it a grade separation. And so the program, it's a good idea. The challenge for the country is they're very, very expensive. You can be talking $20 or $30 million for one of these. So $600 million a year guaranteed might get you 30 crossings, which is excellent, but there's 220,000 in the United States. So I would say it's like all these DOT grant programs, it's been slow to get started. They're slow to execute, but once it's getting going, I think people will like how it works, and I think that there'll be an opportunity to increase that program even further in the next reauthorization.
Thank you. Commissioner Winders, what are the barriers that keep local governments, especially those in rural areas, from applying for discretionary grants?
Thank you, Representative. The key areas revolve around capacity, either the financial capacity to put together an application or the human capacity to wade through the notice of federal funding opportunity, or the capacity to provide to front the costs of a large project. So the notice is being complicated, and the capacity is necessary to wade through those and figure out what works for whom and whether or not we actually have a chance at any particular grant, whether it's worth our effort to put forward. Those are some of the major constraints, barriers.
Okay. Are there other things that Congress can do to help rural communities to secure DOT funding or for critical infrastructure? Any other recommendations?
There has been discussion about direct funding to counties. There's been discussion about building capacity, helping to build capacity. From my perspective, and I believe from NACO's perspective, the National Association of Counties' perspective, if we can simplify the rules, make the goals of the program clear and more singular, not so many goals, then that would levelize the playing field. And what I mean by not so many goals is in the rating criteria, different counties have different abilities to compete on such things as clean air. Mm-hmm. In my rural county, we're not going to get many points for our road project as it relates to clean air but it is a definite safety need. It's a need for the state and national system, but we don't rate well on those criteria. So maybe making sure that the criteria that the applications are rated on are the things that you as Congress want them to be rated on, not additional criteria.
Thank you. Targeted investments allow for the effective use of taxpayer funds. If we can start with you, Mr. Perdue, and then Ms. O'Leary. Can you talk a bit about what greatest benefit would be to state and then to municipal/regional governments as well? What would your recommendations be?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What would your recommendations be from a statewide perspective, what I was just talking to Commissioner Winders about, and then from a municipal/regional perspective to Ms. O'Leary? So it's the same question from a statewide perspective and same question on a municipal perspective.
Sure. In terms of discretionary grants and specifically the NOFOs and the requirements in them, my suggestion or recommendation would be mainly focus the requirements in those NOFOs on the actual physical infrastructure and what it is meant to achieve. moving people, moving goods safely and efficiently, bringing all these extra requirements in that some communities may be able to meet, others may not, as you've heard many times, makes it very challenging. I mean, it already takes a considerable amount of resources to pursue these grants.
Thank you. Ms. O'Leary?
I would say a couple of things. One, when it comes to the formula funds, the sub-allocation process works. It works on our TAP funds, being able to sub-allocate down to major metropolitan areas at least. And I think we had a good point earlier where we work hand in glove with our DOT, where our part of Michigan gets a sub-allocation for some dollars for TAP, but then the state works with the rest of the more rural areas to implement TAP programs across the rest of the state. So sub-allocate where it makes sense.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman's